Hey guys, welcome to GameRomp Easy Mode, an easygoing podcast with me, David, and my wife,
Deanna.
We're going to talk about games, what we've been playing, what we're thinking about, and we're just going to have a little chill time here. So feel free to relax, fall asleep.
Yeah, because I'm basically almost asleep as it is.
Yeah. Well, that's a good vibe to be in. That's what we want. So, another week, right?
Yep.
I've been playing a few games. There's one new game I want to talk about. And
is that going to be the main discussion, or is that going to be like what I've been playing this week?
The way I look at it, there is no main discussion. We're just here to have a chat. It'll flow the way it'll flow, which is why we sometimes get on wild tangents about movies and I don't know what else was last week.
Yeah, because holy shit, if you listened to last week, well, you know how that went.
That's part of the fun. I like when, I don't know, sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast and they go off topic and then they like correct themselves or, try to steer the ship back on the right direction. But I'm always like, you know what? I like that.
I guess that's fair. I mean, I've listened. Yeah, it's hard because there's like two different types of podcasts. You get the one where it's just like the friends talking to each other and yeah, they can go on tangents and stuff. But then I also listen, I guess it's one podcast I listen to that is like, yeah, sometimes it's very slight tangents that they go on, but it's also like a very well-researched topic that they talk about.
I mean, obviously it's going to depend. Like if I'm listening to a podcast, it's like, oh, today we're going into the history of... Yeah, like, oh, the history of Zeppelins and why they stopped existing or whatever. And then like if like half of that was just talking about movies and Fast and Furious and drama at home, like, okay, then yeah, that would be dumb. But for us, like, as long as it's not too much, I don't know, I think it's fine.
We're allowed to be dumb.
Yeah, or nobody's coming to us for, like, heavily researched papers.
Yeah, this ain't your gaming journalism shit.
Yeah, we're just having a good time and enjoying each other's company. And I guess your company, if you're listening to us. So yeah, I think I'm going to start off by just going off on a slate thing about the games I've been playing. And then... there is one game, a new game that I tried that I got off of Epic that I want to talk about. But I also kind of feel kind of guilty in a way that, like, okay, I talked about it last week, but I kind of wanted to play more Zenless Zone Zero, because, like...
Really? I thought you were, like, totally done with that.
That's the thing, like, part of me is like, oh, God, I don't want to play it. But, like, the other part of me is like, I still haven't seen anything. Like, what is the story? Like, does it get better? I don't know how many hours I put into it. 4, 5, 6, something like that. And I think my biggest thing about, like, sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should try it again. Give it one more chance. But then I remember, like, all the slow parts. Because, like, I want you to, if you haven't played this game, I want you to imagine a kind of like a JRPG action adventure. But it's not a big open world or even, like, big open stages. When you go, like, on your missions, you basically, mission starts and you're looking at this grid of TVs. And this grid of TVs is, like, it's almost like a puzzle, but it's not a puzzle. So, I don't know if you've ever played, like, The Adventures of Lolo, or, like...
Can't say that I have.
Star Tropics, or maybe even Bomberman. Like, you imagine that kind of grid. And, like, you have a set path you can go, and there's different things. You can collect items. All the items are just, like, abstract nonsense, though. So, it's, like, it's not exciting. You're not walking over to a thing, picking up a cool weapon. It's just abstract currencies, because it's a gacha game. But the worst part is, like, they interrupt you so much. The flow of the gameplay in that is so bad. Like, okay, I'm gonna go start this mission. It loads into the mission, so I gotta wait for a load screen. You pop up to this screen. Then they start talking. It's like, okay, I'm gonna move my little dude on these TV screens. You move it like twice or 3 times, and the game interrupts you. It's like, oh, this is happening. Look at this screen. There's something going on here. It's like, okay. Then you move, get on there. Oh, this is happening. They talk again. It's just constant interruptions.
So it's not like... they didn't do that just for the tutorial? Because I can understand a tutorial is like they have to explain what each TV signal thing, whatever. Yeah. But they do that for every time?
Yeah, because, like, there's always something happening, like, story-wise, I guess. But it's just, the flow feels bad when you're interrupting the gameplay. I feel
this is from Hoyo, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird that, like, they didn't... I guess they're just making different games for different types of people. Yeah. But it's just weird that they would make You seem to have a lot of praise for Genshin and how that seems to
It's
flow.
open, yeah, because like
And then they do this, and it's like the complete fucking opposite for some reason.
that's the thing, because like yeah, when you play Genshin again, they just drop you into a big open world, and especially in the beginning of the game, yes, there are some tutorials and some story stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do
Yeah,
that.
but like you can just wander around and like, oh, what's over there? What's over this hill? There's a treasure chest over there. Oh, there's this little puzzle or this little guy I have to follow to unlock something, and like they're just you're just dropped in there to have fun. But in this game, it was like, do you want to go fight some bad guys? Okay, here's the mission. Pick the mission. Loading screen. Get to the TV grid thing. Oh, I'm gonna dialogue about like what's going on and what we have to do. Okay, fine. Even though like I already read the missions, but like, and then you start moving around the little TV screens, and like again they interrupt you for this and that and this and that and this and that. It's just the TV grid puzzle thing is already not fun, but it is made worse by how much they interrupt you and stop the flow. Like if they were just talking over it while you were still moving around freely, that would be one thing. But then like not even just that, like okay, some of the screens have like little red zones where like, oh, this is a combat encounter. So when you land on those, you go into a loading screen.
Is that when you appear in like what I would count as like an alleyway?
Yeah, like an actual game stage. You're like in some city somewhere, but it's like a single room in like an alley or all some think of like just a city, back industrial areas or whatever. And yeah, it's like it loads you into that, and that takes time. Even on my SSD, it takes time. Then you get into the game, you fight like 3, 4, or 5 dudes for like a minute or two, and then it's like, oh, done. Then you see this flashy animation, and you sit into another loading screen, and you come back to the TV screen grids, and then they're probably going to talk to you again, and then you got to move your little icon around the TV screens and hope you don't get interrupted again, but you probably will.
Which is funny because when you said that, like, oh, then you fight 3 or 4 little monster dudes or whatever that you're fighting, I thought you were going to say that they interrupt, like the characters interrupt you every 3 or 4 mini fights or something.
No, luckily once the gameplay is starting, it's fine. But like it's just between like all the interruptions in the other mode and like having to load in and then load out, dick around on the TV screen where it's boring, then load back in, do a fight, and then load back out, and then load back out to the real world where just it's just story stuff and you have to watch them talk and like.
I wonder how they failed so badly with the loading screen.
I don't mind talking in RPGs, but the way they do it in this game, it's kind of like, if you can imagine like I want to say like an old-timey like 3DS or DS Fire Emblem game where it's basically just pictures on the screen talking to each other. They're like looking directly at the screen, so like they're not interacting with each other. It's really weird. It's just, at least in like Genshin and some other games, like imagine Breath of the Wild, like there's 2 people talking to each other, they're just standing there, and sure, that's not the most interesting thing, but at least you can see the world, and like maybe they have some hand motions or something. But in this, they're just staring at the screen, they're not looking at each other. It's really weird. I don't find it engaging.
And what's the reason that you want to try and play this even more if you already hate it?
I know, I'm sitting here complaining about it, but like the sad thing is that like out of this whole time of this mission or whatever, I would say like 25% of the time is actually in like the world where you're fighting and running around, and that's fun. I just wish it was more of that and less of everything else.
It sounds like instead of trying to play this game, I don't know, maybe this is a me thing, but instead you could kind of just envision the atmosphere of this that you enjoy and just make up headcanon, basically.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think I probably could just convince myself to not even bother. But yeah, I do like the vibe, and like, one of my favorite things about the game has been the main menu when you start the game. When you first start the game and you get like, you're in like this room with the TV screen and it's like just a bunch of commercials cycling through. I just loved that.
Oh my god.
Which is weird to say that like one of my favorite things about this game is just the main menu screen. So go figure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, the main screen is just fucking chef's kiss, but the rest of the game, it just goes downhill from there.
Do you have any, off the top of your head, any games where you remember the main screen is like, you just turn on the game and the main screen comes on, it's like press start or whatever, but like there's just something about it, it's like, whoa, this is cool, I want to sit here for a moment?
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think I'll probably think of something once we finish recording this episode, but the only thing I could think of that comes vaguely close to what I think you're implying is like maybe when was it the Burning Crusade when that came out, and like the starting screen was like the big old gate. I remember people seemed to enjoy that one.
Yeah, it really depends on the game. Come to think of it, like another...
It was like, it was so impending and like, oh my god, I'm going through this gate that's like 100 feet high. And
that's what I mean, like
raw.
The combo of like the music and the vibe. Because there's a few other ones that I'm thinking of. Like one that does sometimes do a good combo of music and vibes is Fallout 76. Sometimes, because they often change it. But like they'll just show like the like West Virginia, and you're looking at the mountains and all the ruins, and like it can be like hauntingly beautiful, and then they have like really just cool music playing, and it's like, whoa, I can just sit here and watch this for like a few minutes and it just feels good. Another one that I think of is this one doesn't have a lot of visuals, but Kingdom Hearts. The first Kingdom Hearts, you start the game and it's just a picture of Sora. It's not that interesting, but like the music that they're playing is so good that it just feels like there's just something about like just sitting there and taking in the music. It's like, oh, this game is about to happen, but like the music is just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. Another one I think that comes to mind is Chrono Cross. That one had the music in that screen is like very angelic, but the scenery is just like this underwater scene of like fish and stuff. So you're hearing this angelic music. You got the title Chrono Cross, and it's just like this scene of underwater with fishes and stuff going around everywhere, and it's very like, why you know, like,
yeah,
this is not what I associated Chrono Trigger with, so why am I seeing all these fish with this angelic music? So I don't know.
Now, I didn't play any of these games, but when you mentioned Chrono Cross, which now I think about it, it's complete, obviously I'm confused, whatever, but wasn't there a thing about, was it the Secret of Mana intro screen with like the big old tree or something?
Yeah.
I never played that, but I remember something about that.
That one's actually a really good one too, because that one starts with a black screen and it just starts with a square, a soft logo, right? But they have a whale song, so you turn on the game and you hear this haunting like weird sound, and it's like, what is that? It sounds like a monster, but like a sad monster.
Yeah.
And then you see the tree and it just pans down and you hear the music, and it's so fucking beautiful. You see the big tree panning down, and then you see some flamingos flying by as the music starts picking up. And then at the very end, you see the three characters standing at the bottom of the mana tree. And yeah, that's another really good one.
See, I don't have anything like that I can think of from any of the games I played, maybe as like a younger child or something. Because the only thing I can think of, other than like the WoW one that came obviously much later, was, I know kind of like, I guess it became like a trope because I've seen it in later games, and I think it started with The Sims, or one of the Sims games, where when it was loading up it would be like reticulating splines and all those types of things, and sometimes they would have like mini jokes in there or something.
Yeah, that was SimCity 2000.
But the other thing I was thinking, which is vaguely related, I think, but probably also not, was, did you ever get I guess this would apply to PC games, not console games, obviously. But did you ever get a game where you were installing it, and since installing took so long that they actually gave you a game to play while it was installing?
A game to play? Huh.
Because I think they did that in the original Sims. While it was installing, they had like, it was something really simple. I think it was like, I forget, it was like Match 2 game, or I remember vaguely something about installing The Sims and it gave you like a little mini game or like a trivia game to play or something.
No, I don't remember that at all.
I'm gonna have to look it up after this. But...
I have one that I know you're gonna remember as soon as I say it.
Zoo Tycoon?
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, that intro.
Yeah.
That's true.
You start and you hear the clanking of like the lift.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you hear
good.
the screaming, and then it just starts like showing all the like parks just alive with that like special music that isn't in the game, just in the menu. That's a really good one. I've definitely watched that thing through the full entirety of its little loop.
See, it's like, yeah, I played that as a kid, but you're the one that brings it up because you remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I don't know. I think more games should do that, come to think of it.
I mean, there's a lot of things newer games could probably do that, older games. This isn't going to count anymore because we've moved on from physical things for the most part into just digitally installing.
Yeah.
Which has its pros and cons. But like for a while we were still buying physical games and not getting manuals with it, and that was kind of a heartbreak thing to do. Because even for the Switch games, you have like this still decently sized box, not the massive monsters we used to get, but still like the plastic case and something, and there's no manual, there's no papers to like, ooh, sign up for this silly shit that you will never sign up for, and it's just like the most minuscule fucking cartridge in there.
Yeah, it almost seems like a waste of...
I mean, I know why they do it in the sense that like it would obviously be stupidly easy to steal a single 1 inch by 1 inch cartridge if that was just the packaging size, but yes.
I don't know. I mean, those are all usually locked up anyways, so...
No, I know, but they do that also for like SD cards and shit. You get the tiny SD card, but it's in this giant package, so it's slightly harder to steal, I think.
I bet they just make the boxes the size they do just for like physical
Shipping
collectors.
Oh, you mean those?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Because like I can't imagine any other reason why those things are that big.
I don't know. I feel if it was for the collectors, that collectors would still be all about like having a manual or a poster, something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's kind of half the reason why I stopped caring about physical media. Because like there was a time when I was like, I want to make a collection when I was a kid. Like, I don't know, teenage up to maybe like 20, 22, 25, something like that. And I had that little collection at home, and it's like, cool, I filled up 2 big old shelving units of games and books. And then I moved, and...
Yeah, it's all fun and games until you have to stuff that into one suitcase.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. But yeah, I mean, looking at what we have here, I see 2 Switch games, a PS1 game for some reason. Oh yeah, because we found it on the street. I found a copy of Grandia for the PS1.
Technically, I think I spotted it first.
Okay, sure, whatever, I don't remember. But it was just like on the ground in the city. And like we looked at the CD discs. One of them looks pretty scratched up. I haven't actually tested it to see if it works, but...
I mean, did the PS4 or the PS3 even have... Could we even test it?
I think the PS3 could play it.
Oh.
But yeah, Grandia. And Grandia is one of my favorite JRPGs from the PS1 era. Like, that is a game that made me... I think it made me cry when I was a kid, or at least like tear up.
And here's the thing. I think that the one we found, the Grandia that we found, that still has the manual in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because those are old enough to have manuals, yeah.
So, like, even something we saw that someone just, I don't know, threw out a fucking car window or something still has a manual compared to the new games.
Yeah, it's too bad. I wonder if kids would read the manuals, like... Because that was a big thing. I think we mentioned this before, but, like, going to the mall, going to the game store, getting a game, and, like, then you have to drive back home. And I would be, like, reading the manual all the way back home, because like just the excitement of that.
Yeah, and you would get new information and some artwork, and I don't know, that was just good times.
Yeah, that's true. The artwork in the magazines too, like sometimes there'd be really unique artwork in there, like especially for NES games, like because the NES graphics were they were limited. But to help with your imagination, you would look in the manual, and you would see all these cool little drawings. Like, oh, that's what this really looks like.
Yeah, like all the little monsters and stuff.
Yeah. Well, what were we talking about? Intros.
Zenless Zone Zero?
Well, see, that's what I mean. We went on a tangent, and the conversation was better because of it.
At least you feel like the conversation was better.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, here's a question that I was thinking of when you were going through your explanation of Zenless Zone Zero, whatever. Do you think I've heard of other people doing this too, is like, oh, you should play this game for at least 10 hours or 20 hours or more tough. Extreme ones. But would you ever do the thing like, oh, you have to play this game for at least 10 hours to see how you really feel? Or can you play this game for 5 hours and be like, yeah, I'm not wasting another 5 hours of my life on this?
Yeah, you know what? It's really tough, isn't it? Because like, I hear a lot of people say that about Final Fantasy XIV, and I want to try that one day.
Is that the MMO?
Yeah. Like, that it's, like, some of the best Final Fantasy storytelling ever, but, like, the first one is maybe not that good, and it takes a while. But I've also said the same about Genshin Impact. Mm-hmm. Like, that first area in Mondstadt, where you're just talking to, like, the European people or whatever, it's like, that's not the most interesting story stuff. In fact, it's pretty generic and boring.
Yeah, and even the stuff with what's the ice guy's name? Do you remember? Zephyr.
In Genshin?
Yeah.
Kaya.
Oh, Jesus. That was. I don't know if I want to count it as necessarily interesting, but like, I went to go do that quest, and he's like, "Oh, I need you to do this investigation or something." He sent me on like a treasure hunt, and like, you were there sitting next to me while I was going through this. I'm like, I already know from like 10 miles away that this is just going to be some kind of weird sick joke thing. And poor Paimon is just this poor little naive little, I guess a little girl, but also like a sprite or something, an angel. I don't know what she counts as.
Yeah, I mean, neither, honestly.
And it's like, she fell for it so fucking hard. And I'm like, this isn't...
You little dumb idiot.
Ah, jeez. But fine, whatever. I guess I'll go through with that. And it's like, they don't even technically let your character understand that this is bullshit, I think, from the get-go.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to follow along and just, fine, whatever.
That's the thing about, like, your character's kind of like a half-silent protagonist.
Yeah, you have some dialogue options, but it's just like, eh.
Oh, it's
And then
so
when I
weird.
wanted dialogue options, there's like, no, you're just going to accept this for what it is. Like, fine.
I really don't like how they handle... I mean, I think in general nowadays, I just don't like silent protagonists. The only time I think I'm good with a silent protagonist is when it's a game like Fallout or Skyrim, where you have a bunch of dialogue choices. So it makes sense that, like, oh, obviously they can't voice all this stuff. And your character can be a good person, a bad person, a curious person, a person that doesn't care, a person that's a mercenary.
And even then, they have to do it right. Because if they're going to give me, like, 3 options of good, bad, neutral.
Yeah.
And then, I think they did this in Mass Effect, or one of the other games, where it's like, oh, you're going to have this option to say this particular thing, and then the character goes off on something completely fucking different. I'm like, that's not what I chose.
Yeah, that's...
Why are you doing this to me?
That's really bad, too. Mass Effect and Fallout 4 do that pretty badly. But, like, the games that do it good are, like, Fallout New Vegas. Because, yeah, there's so many nuance in what you could say and how that can affect the gameplay. But
you know what game didn't bother me, though? I mean, all things considered, was Breath of the Wild. Like, I know Link has always been a silent protagonist, and they're not giving me dialogue options and then, like, turning that dialogue option on its head. Like, I just know that Link is a blank slate and there's nothing I can do about it. I guess it's because it's always been like that.
I don't know.
So I'm used to it, maybe?
You know what? I'm going to heavily disagree. I really don't like how The Legend of Zelda does it.
That's fair.
Because, like, Link, yeah, they sell it as, like, oh, he's the blank slate that you project yourself onto. But he really isn't, because he has his own story, his own personality. He emotes.
I guess.
You see his face has facial expressions and he emotes without your input. He is his own person. What I wish they would do is, they're kind of like straddling the middle, and I don't like that. I wish they would either make him his own full character that can actually express himself and talk if he needs to, or they would go the other way, which is what I would actually really want them to do, and just make him fully customizable and be like, you know what? What does your Link look like? Who is he or her?
Yeah, that's fair. I did enjoy playing as Linkle.
Yeah, it's like, you can make your character, and like, you find all these treasures, your character will dress up, and like, it just that customization. If the character is not going to have personality anyways, then let me at least make the character I want to make.
Which is interesting,
if they do have their own personality, which Link kind of does, then lean into that and let his story come out and actually be a part of the thing, a part of the experience. Then I could, like, care about Link and his story. Because you do, even like in Breath of the Wild, you do see him, like, he's with Zelda, and like, especially the cutscenes, the memory scenes.
Yeah.
You have no control there. He is just living his life. He is his own character. And in some games, it's even way more pronounced, like Wind Waker. Wind Waker Link is 100% his own character.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's like shouting and screaming, and like the little facial expressions he does that you see him like, oh, he looks determined here, or oh, he looks scared here, or worried, or he looks sad here because he's saying goodbye to grandma. It's like, he has his own personality, which
is then
life.
Weird that he doesn't respond to anyone. He's always intentionally mute.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's like you're playing, you're trying to do both sides or be in the middle, and you're doing both badly. So
Okay, that's fair.
go into one. If Link is his own character, just make him be his own character. Let him talk and express himself. Because a lot of the time he does express himself in grunts and facial expressions. Like, he'll be in the story, it's like, oh, look at Link's jumping out in front and he looks determined and he's being brave. It's like, I didn't make him do that. That's his own agency doing that, so just let him be his own character. Otherwise, let me make my own Link, or Linkle, or whatever. Let me make my own character, customize it, and then I can then let it be your own avatar that you can control and like have more dialogue options.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know, maybe it's because I played Linkle, or it's just because it's been so long, but playing through Breath of the Wild didn't bother me all that much.
Yeah, I mean, I love Breath of the Wild. It's one of my favorite games ever. But I just feel like story-wise they could do better. As far as like your player character goes anyways. Oh, so yeah, wow. Hey, look at that, another tangent. I love it.
There was something I wanted to talk about, and then it escaped me.
Something about Link or Zelda or silent protagonists?
Oh, well, there was a you know what?
We're talking about Genshin,
if I'm
too.
thinking, what was the game that you played that had a silent protagonist, and they were like on a boat? But then they did even worse because the person was even emoting even more than Link ever did.
Yeah. Okay.
What was that?
Suikoden 5.
Oof.
Because, okay, the Suikoden games you always play as a silent protagonist. But you gotta remember these games started in 2D. Just like Zelda.
Yeah.
So imagine the difference, for anyone who hasn't played Suikoden, imagine the difference between a Link to the Past Link and Wind Waker Link. They're both silent protagonists, but Wind Waker Link is, emoting and moving, and you can see the emotion in his actions. Whereas like a 2D little sprite in A Link to the Past or in Suikoden 1 or 2, like it's so abstract that you don't really see the character moving and emoting too much, so it doesn't bring you out of it.
Yeah.
But in Suikoden 5, which is on the PS2, the game was fully voice acted. Every other character had voices. There was cutscenes. So you like one of the scenes you described was like, oh, they're coming home from like a trip and they're on the boat, and it's like your main guy and like the retainers, because he's like a royal or something. So all the royals, the retainers are talking. It's like, well, we're finally home, and aren't you excited to be able to see your little sister again, or your mother or something? And like your character is just like, he's got a smile on his face and he's nodding and stuff, and it's just like he looks like a mime.
Yeah, he's like super mute.
Yeah, he's mute like any other silent protagonist. He doesn't talk, but he does mime emotions. So when somebody asks him, oh, you excited to get home? He smiles and nods, and like he makes all these hand gestures. It's so bafflingly bad. I really don't like that.
It's interesting too, because I bet the story would have been really interesting if they had kept it like that and actually said, yes, this Prince character is actually mute. Like, that's his... Because mute people exist in real life. We're watching one in The Boys. Like, that's a thing that happens. So if they had just said, yeah, he's just legitimately mute and this is how he communicates to other people, that would have made more sense than like playing half and half.
Yeah, I guess.
Whereas like even Link doesn't get to that point, I don't think. Or at least not shown.
I don't know if I've ever played a game like that, but it could be interesting. The thing about a lot of these quote-unquote mute characters is that like in-game, in-universe, they're not mute. They have dialogue options, so it's like you're talking to people in the dialogue options.
That's the thing. Did they give your Suikoden 5 character dialogue options, or was it just... Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe not like... It wasn't like, like a Skyrim or Fallout or anything like that. It would be more like Genshin, where it's like, oh, you get two options. And
yes,
like
a yes or a no.
Sometimes they're not really much different, but yeah, basically like that.
I bet there's an indie... Actually, I think I've heard of an indie game. I mean, I'm not going to remember the name, but there's going to be an indie game out there with either a legit mute character or a character that like uses sign language to some degree.
Maybe. There was that one game about the deaf character that everyone hated.
That's unfortunate, but yeah.
But I guess that's not because of the character, just the gameplay.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thought. What if they were just legitimately mute?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of games talking doesn't even matter, so it really depends on the game.
Yeah, you get like a... What was it? I mean, I think Mario does this too, but was it Animal Parade or like Harvest Moon, where it's like you don't even get a yes or no, it's just a yes or a yes.
A lot of JRPGs do that kind of thing.
Like I get it to some degree, because if you answer no, then the game just should be technically over. Which was there a Mario game that did that or something?
There are also RPGs that like they'll surprise you, like, oh, of course, here's another one of these false choices, and then you pick the wrong one. It's like, oh, hey, game over.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that can be kind of funny sometimes too.
Yeah, Dragon Quest did that, and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door did that too. Remember, you chose that one answer. It's like, oh, Mario.
Oh yeah.
Be my slave, and you're like,
okay,
okay, game
sure,
over.
Whatever.
But here's another funny one. About the mute characters. So in Saints Row, you make your own character, and then like for 2, 3, and basically 2 and onward, you can pick like different voices. But in the first game, your character was mute, and in the second game, your character is talking again, or starts talking. So a lot of the characters,
like,
a lot of the characters will be like, "Wow, you're a lot chattier this time." So that's cute. I remember you being a lot quieter.
I don't know if this was in options, but okay, they could bring this up in Legend of Zelda, but I don't think Nintendo has the guts to do that. But in Fallout 4, you know how like, oh, the parent is trying to go after their kid and find their kid and all this stuff. But like in real life, most people are like, I don't give a shit about this kid.
Yeah.
Were there ever dialogue options that kind of went in that direction?
No, unfortunately.
Because that would have been fucking great. Like, oh, I'm looking for my kid, or yeah, I don't give a shit, I'm just doing some other random shit.
That's the thing about that game specifically, because like in previous Fallout games, you had the silent protagonist. He wouldn't have a voice, and you just have a bunch of dialogue options. In 4, there are dialogue options, but they're a lot more limited, and they are voiced.
Yeah.
And like your character,
there's mods for that.
Yes. Your character will always be looking for their son and like being really upset about it. So like there's that one point in the game where you're with Nick Valentine, the detective, and you're like telling him like, oh, I'm looking for my child. This guy murdered my spouse and took my child, and I'm so sad and I'm gonna cry. And this ignores the fact that like you could have been for like the past in-game month just dicking around the wasteland, picking up treasure, building up settlements, and just having a blast doing other stuff.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's hard because, I don't know, maybe they thought like, oh, your child has been kidnapped as a baby. And like a lot of people will kind of have like the parental instincts in real life to some degree, or even me with all the baby birds around. Like, oh, it's a baby, so most people are going to worry about a baby. So maybe we don't have to play up the like actual relationship between the parent and child. So maybe that's what they were going with. But like it's hard to get people to go for a child or any other character without kind of building up the relationship first.
Yeah, that's the thing a lot of games fail at. Like a big sad thing will happen like this, but you haven't built up your own personal rapport with that character.
Yeah, so it's like, I just don't give a shit. And again, I brought up Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because, you know, Link is finally woken up after 100 years, and Link has to go on this adventure to help Princess Zelda, who's been trapped in this hell for her own 100 years, which in another dimension could feel like a day for her, or it could have felt like 1,000 years, because, you know, I'm thinking back to like the Black Mirror incident shit. But all the jokes online are like, oh, I have to rescue this princess after sleeping for 100 years, and I'm just going around picking fucking flowers for another 100 years.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks because everyone does love Zelda, but once you start your game, it's like, I'm just gonna get stuck, and everyone suddenly develops fucking ADHD and goes off and chases a squirrel instead of like trying to actually rescue the poor princess who is literally suffering against this like demon monster.
It's that thing that often talked about term, the ludonarrative dissonance, where like you got your story and how the character should be acting or feeling, and then you have the player and how they're acting and feeling, and they clash. And that can really bring you out of the story in some games. In some games like Zelda, it's easy to ignore and not think about it too hard. In some games like Fallout, it can be kind of jarring sometimes, because I'll be like, oh, I'm having so much fun in the wasteland, having my adventure. And then I'm having this conversation with the detective and my character's like basically crying. And I'm like, wait.
Having a mental breakdown over this child that they barely know.
And it's like, that's not how I feel. Because like, I mean, I understand like wanting to save your kid and all, but that, again, also the whole fact of like, do you care about the character that's missing? Like, Zelda is fun and she's cool and she's cute. I do want to save her. My baby in Fallout, I don't really care too much, which is weird. Maybe because I'm not a parent, and also maybe because like, oh, this world sucks, and I kind of figured he's in the institute where everything's kind of probably better anyway. So
yeah, to some degree.
But then I'm thinking of like, there's other games that do this whole thing like, here's a character you should care about, and then they immediately die. Are you sad? Well, your character is sad. Fire Emblem Engage does this really badly. You wake up and you're like this kind of this holy figure, and your quote unquote mom is kind of like the queen or goddess of the world, and like you talk to her for like one mission in a tutorial battle, and then in the second mission it's like, oh, somebody's attacking us, so we got to defend ourselves, and then after that, spoilers, your mom dies. And it's like, I've talked to you for like a total of 2 minutes. I don't know you. I don't feel any, I mean, I'm sorry you died or whatever, but like, they showed me this character being this super powerful deity dragon thing, and suddenly in the second mission they just die, and like your character's like crying and sad, and then like for the rest of the game it's like, oh, my mom, and it had no impact on me. It just felt too forced, like too fast. There's not enough buildup. There are some games where a character dies and they have successfully built them up enough, and obviously we won't go into spoilers, but like a game like Suikoden 2 does that really good. There's a character that if you mess up and don't do a certain thing, this character you really love and you have been in this huge adventure with will die, and that's like crushing. So people are like, I want to do everything I can to prevent that from happening. But in a game like this Fire Emblem or like Fallout 4 or whatever, like, oh no, this person is gone, oh boo-hoo, I guess I'm gonna be sad, but like, I don't care. Anyway, let me talk.
Actually,
Go ahead.
One more quick thing. If we're talking about like the silent protagonist, another game that does it interesting because it's not quite a silent protagonist. It's like a different version of being in the middle, straddling between silent and one that has their own agency. Death Stranding. So the main guy,
Norman, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, whatever. He talks in the cutscenes. He's having all these relationship issues. He's kind of an asshole and blah, 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 whatever. But then in other missions, when you're doing deliveries, he doesn't really talk to the people all that much, or not all the time.
Yeah.
And then you get this point where one of the NPCs is Conan O'Brien, and you're like doing deliveries for him. And it's funny because you've done enough deliveries where you realize that the main character is not going to talk back.
Yeah.
But they play it up because when you're doing deliveries for Conan O'Brien and he's trying to make all these jokes, but your character's not responding just like every other time. And the Conan O'Brien NPC is like, oh, tough crowd here because you're not responding. And I loved that so fucking much. I think that was like the best thing ever.
That was if you make it a joke and the joke works, then yeah, it's good. I like that too.
So I just wanted to bring that up as a last thing.
That was such a good game. I would love to talk about the game more, but we'll skip that for now.
Oh, poor Conan O'Brien. Like, you're just not fucking responding to anything I say.
Oh, man. Okay, I will say, we'll go into one last thing for myself is, do I even have time? I might as well try, whatever.
Yeah, give it a shot.
I have tried playing, it was being given away for free on Epic, a game called, I think it's called,
You forgot it already.
Yeah, I did. Cassette Nights? Tape Nights? Oh my god, why did I not write this down?
I told you we need notes.
I think I don't know if it's probably not going to be active when this podcast goes out, but yeah, it was given away for free on Epic. I think it's from the same people that made Dicey Dungeons. And if not, it's at least the same artist and probably a musician, because the music in this is really good too. And it's basically like a mix of a strategy game and a deck building game. So you have like your deck of cards, which include your monsters and attacks and special abilities.
Okay.
And then like this big map with like the enemies are placed down on. And you have to like play your cards to summon your little monsters and then play your cards to move and make them attack. And it sounds kind of tedious, and it can be sometimes, because it's like, oh, I didn't draw any movement cards, or I didn't draw any extra attack cards. But basically, you're guaranteed to always draw at least one movement card, and if your little monsters move next to another enemy, they get one attack for free. So it's not like you're not going to be always screwed, but there can definitely be times when like I don't have enough cards to make my dudes do what I want them to do, which can be kind of annoying because the enemies don't have that limitation.
That sucks.
Other than that, though, I've been really enjoying it. So,
have you been enjoying it more than Zenless Zone?
Well, I haven't played Zenless Zone since like last week, so have I been enjoying it more than Genshin Impact? I don't know. That's a different question, because I'm still playing that a lot, but I won't go into that right now. I'll just say that I'm in the desert zone, and it's like, oh, it's suddenly Egypt. Except the pyramids have like cool technology in it for some reason. Well, yeah. There's a lot of sci-fi stuff in this game. Think of like what was that movie with the Egyptians, Stargate? It's like, oh, these pyramids have a lot of interesting technology inside of them. Anyway,
oh boy.
It's cool. I liked it. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to go into Genshin today, because I'm sure I'll go into that again some other day. But Cassette Nights, is that what it's called? I'm just going to assume that's what it's called, because that's what my memory is telling me.
I don't know. I didn't even bother to download it, so.
Floppy Nights. I think it's Floppy Nights.
Oh.
Because they're in floppy disks.
Oh.
The main character has this little like robot she made, and she basically puts in the floppy disk at the beginning of every battle. Huh. I think it's Floppy Nights.
Now, is it an actual floppy disk, the 5-inch, or is it the quote unquote floppy disk 3 1/4 that were
3
actually
1/4?
hard?
Yeah, the hard plastic ones. But yeah,
those had more interesting colors though. So.
It's cool. I like the art. A lot of cool little monster designs. It's very I don't know how to say this without sounding like a big old grouch.
Uh-oh.
But like the characters are very like Saturday morning cartoon, I guess, which is fine. I mean, that's the vibe the game has. But like at one point, like you meet this big ogre dude, and he's like, "I'm a hugger," and they're just like hugging it out, and it's like, okay, cute, I guess, invading personal space here.
Oh no. He didn't ask for consent. What the shit?
It's fine. It's been fun. I guess you unlock decks as you go, and you can mix and match, and like you start with a plant deck, which is all about these like little plant monsters and healing, and then like the second one is like they call it a monster deck, which I mean,
they're all monsters.
Yeah, in my opinion, they can all be basically classified as monsters. But the second one is a monster deck, and there's like little demon dudes and little goblins and stuff like that.
So what are like the monster designs like?
Very cartoony.
Very cute and chibi, or
very cute, very cartoony. Yeah, like
do you have an urge to draw any of these characters whatsoever?
No, but that's because I don't have an urge to draw. Period.
Oh. What an odd thing for a cartoonist to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I hope people enjoy my comics anyways. But yeah, I don't really feel like drawing. Have you ever played Dicey Dungeon? Probably not.
No, but I have seen it, and like I have access to it. I think it's on Steam, right? So we share it.
I guess. I don't remember where I own it. I should
probably. Do you want me to try and play it?
You don't have to. I mean, you could if you want to. It's basically a roguelike where each game lasts like not even an hour.
I mean, I do like roguelikes. They give me the option of playing something and then restarting.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you die, you restart. There's no continue. So, but the games are so short that it doesn't really matter. And yeah, the art in that game is really cute. Like, the enemies in that. If you know what Dicey Dungeon's enemies look like, you can basically imagine what this game looks like.
It's weird. I can imagine the thumbnail picture, but I don't know I don't remember what the actual game itself looks like.
The monsters in that game are really goofy and cute. Like, one of them is I think he's called Sneezy, and he's like this little hedgehog with a cold.
Oh.
And so every once in a while he'll like sneeze and just do a bunch of like splash damage with his needles.
Oh my god. Okay,
and
that sounds cute.
It's stuff like that. Yeah. It's very silly and fun. It's a good game. Dicey Dungeons is really good. And this new game is also really good. It's different though, because it's a card game with a strategy element to it.
Well, I would kind of hope it would be different. But
whereas Dicey Dungeon is just like, it's kind of like a 1 versus 1 RPG with dice instead of cards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of get cards because you have to, that's the one where you like you roll the dice and then you place the number inside the cards to.
Yeah, technically they are kind of like cards, yeah. And as you go through your run, you'll unlock different cards. And some of them are like abilities or weapons or whatever. But
So it's a card game, but a different type of card game.
Yeah. It's very fun. And that game also has really good music. So sure, I mean, if you want to try it.
I mean, yeah, it's... okay, so I guess I'll go into what I've been playing this week, but I'll be starting with the fact that my SSD, after about... I think it literally just went over like 5 years and 1 month. Which I looked at the warranty was 3 years, not 5. So if it was 5, it would have been like you literally had the drive die a month after the warranty, but whatever. My SSD drive after 5 years basically shit the bed. Now, thankfully, I didn't lose anything technically important, but I was using my entire SSD drive, which was about 500 gigabytes big, for gaming. That had I had Steam installed, I had Epic Game Store installed, like I had all the gaming launchers and the games loaded on that. So it died, and the only game I have left basically on my computer is the Pokemon game, Leaf Green, that I was playing. So thankfully I still have the ability to play that game. And I reinstalled Steam fine, but I haven't reinstalled all the games that I had. So as far as
I guess there's no point right now.
No. I mean, but now that well, maybe I should give Dicing Dungeon a check.
That's a small game at least.
Yeah. So it's like I lost all the games, but it wasn't anything important because it's just I can re-download them. It's not a big deal. And I wasn't playing half of them anyways. And, even if I reinstalled, say, Stardew Valley or RimWorld, in the case of RimWorld and Stardew Valley, I'll have to re-download all the mods that I was using. But the games themselves, like the save data, is all on Steam Cloud. So, again, not super important.
Yeah.
So I've been playing... When I have been playing games, it's been Pokemon, Leaf Green, going through that.
Nostalgia run.
Yes. So that's been going well, I suppose. Let's see. I'm still at 3 badges. I finished... Wow. I beat Lieutenant Surge, stupidly easy.
Somehow I thought you were a lot further.
It's weird, badge-wise, not really, but I can get to Celadon City, I can get to Saffron City, going through Lavender, which is very small unless you get through the tower. But to get through the tower, I need this, was it Slifco or the...
Silphco, I think?
Silphco, the thing, so I can see the ghost.
The only time this was a mechanic in Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah. So I need to get that first, which means I need to go through the Team Rocket thing and blah, blah, blah. So I get, the areas open up. I just haven't done the gyms yet.
Yeah.
But I was trying to level up. I caught a Meowth, which I immediately named Restray because I want to be a cat, whatever. So, that was, the one Pokemon so far that I've named immediately. I renamed Mankey Angie just because I'm dumb like that. So he's always Angie or whatever. Do you know the meme to that? Or don't talk to me, I'm Angie or something. I'll show you later. I
can't say that I do.
It's kind of cute. And I think... Oh, I got the Farfetch'd from the trade. So his name is Chiding.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I'm not going to I can't rename it anyways, but I wouldn't rename it. And it's oh, okay, it's just Chiding, whatever. It's a fine name. It doesn't bother me. And because it's traded, it has the 1.5 times experience rate or something. So Chiding ended up leveling up really quickly, which was nice. So I had a Meowth named Restray. I got a Drowsy, sorry. Caught a Drowsy, and I was using Drowsy for a little while, and I was thinking of going to get, because there's a lot of move tutors throughout the land, you can talk to these people and oh, I'll teach your Pokemon this one, but you can only do that once. So I'm I should see if, does Drowsy learn this automatically at some point in its evolution? What other Pokemon can use this instead? And I'll still have to do it, because I was using Drowsy for a little while as my only psychic Pokemon.
Yeah.
But I ended up catching an Abra. So Abra is a little... Abra is both easy and difficult because its only attack, quote unquote attack, is teleport.
Yeah.
Everyone knows catching Abra is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you have to, and there's no like sharing XP item in this old version.
No.
So you have to switch out the Pokemon.
Yeah.
So I had to do that for Abra, and Abra doesn't learn another attack until it evolves into Kadabra, which is level 16.
It's kind of like Magikarp in that way.
Yeah, basically. And yes, that's a pain in the ass, but on the other hand, Abra also uses a lot less XP than a lot of other Pokemon, so leveling it from 9 to 16 didn't take as long as some other Pokemon would have.
Okay.
So I finally get it to evolve into Kadabra, and now that's basically my psychic Pokemon. So I kind of put Drowsy in the thing.
Drowsy was the one I used when I first played the game, and it's like the good starter psychic, but Kadabra is way better.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's fast enough, because there are sometimes, if you go up like against Eradicate or another Pikachu or any of the Pokemon that can...
They're fast, yeah.
Well, not only they're fast, but they also have quick attack, which gets off first hit. As long as you can survive that, most of the time Kadabra attacks first. And yeah, obviously its special is just fucking through the roof. Like, it's already at 40 and its defense is at like 20.
Yeah, it's a glass cannon.
Double. Yes, basically.
Very much so.
So that's interesting, and the only thing that sucks about that is because technically I'm playing an emulator, but I've owned it, whatever. I'm never going to be able to get Alakazam, and that kind of hurts a little bit. Like, Kadabra's always going to be stuck as this. So that's that's the one downside of this.
Could you maybe use like Game Shark codes to make it evolve if you wanted to?
I guess I'll have to look into that.
That is an interesting discussion. I don't know if you want me to interrupt you and go on to a tangent, but...
I was basically done. I was just trying to level low-level Pokemon and grinding for that.
Okay. In that case, here's a question. Now, when I played Final Fantasy V a while back, or a few years back, Final Fantasy V is a game where there's many job classes, and there can be a lot of grinding to, like, maximize your character's, like, potential, if you wanted to. So when I played that, I kind of used a Game Shark code to turn on the XP and job point acquisition up. I don't know if I did it by like times 5 or by times 10 or just by times 2. But I made it so that just during the normal course of my game, the XP rate was high enough that I didn't ever have to grind. Now, is that cheating? Maybe. Because like there are zones where it's like, oh, this is the place where you go to grind if you want to. But it's, we're in the 2020s now. I'm not going to be spending 5 hours grinding against the same enemies over and over again. Like, I already did that as a kid. I'm not doing that anymore. How would you feel about playing Pokemon, like Leaf Green, for example, instead of grinding in the wild grass? Find a Game Shark code that's like XP rate for wild Pokemon or all Pokemon is now times 2. Not like a crazy amount, but just enough so you don't have to grind.
But see, that's the thing, like... In the old games, yes, that would have been a thing. But in this game, as much as there isn't the item to share the XP, there is the Versus Seeker.
Yeah.
So I guess it still counts as grinding, but I've been grinding the trainers instead. And sometimes
that is way better, yeah.
The trainers' Pokemon will actually evolve and get higher level. So you can continuously do that.
True.
So I've been basically using that.
I forgot that was a thing, yeah. That was a good addition.
So, yeah, it's kind of like a half and half. So I don't necessarily have to grind in just the wild anymore.
Back in the old day, like on the Game Boy, before the GBA game, it was like, well, you're at Misty's town. Well, time to go. We talked about this last week, didn't we?
Probably.
Time to go into the grass and eliminate all the local wildlife.
Yeah. So it's not as bad as it was in the super original days.
Yeah. But how would you feel about just like using a Game Shark to supplement things that just can't be really...
I think if you want to make it in the case specifically for here Pokemon, I guess I could look into just doing evolving the Pokemon that have to evolve via trade.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, even back in the day, I didn't have the ability to trade even if my friend had the other game because we just didn't have the connector.
Yeah.
So I was kind of shit on that aspect from the get-go. So I don't feel bad if I did it now just to like do the trade so I can get the Pokemon. But I think that's probably the only thing I would be using to quote-unquote cheat here. Because the rest of the game doesn't bother me. I mean...
Fair enough.
Yes, I haven't gone to Erica yet to kick her ass, but, like, I could probably do that now. I have the Pokemon to do it. Like, Pidgeotto, it should be high enough level. There's been other things I've been trying to do.
Do you think you're really going to stick through this Pokemon challenge and finish more than the one game? Because that's what you said you wanted to do, right? Which seems wild to me, but...
I don't know how far I'll necessarily get, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And now that my computer killed itself anyways, like, yeah, I can install the other games, but I guess you could almost call it as this is what I have at the moment, so I might as well go through with it. I don't know if that makes any sense. But
as long as you're having fun.
Yeah, and I think the thing that also makes this a little bit more fun for me personally is I do want to draw the Pokemon. Like, I drew that picture of the Sparrow the other day. It's not going to take that much more to turn that Sparrow literally into a Pidgey. So I was thinking of kind of doing it. And I know, like, Pokemon's been around for almost fucking 30 years, and people have done all the fan art that you can possibly conjure in your mind. And obviously people have done the realistic version of Pokemon to fucking death, but... maybe I want to do my version of it too.
Yeah, so. I mean, that's what we're doing with this podcast. Like, there's a million people out there discussing video games and putting it online. Like, we need more of that. And here we are doing the same thing. So, yeah, whatever. It's fine. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah, not only do we enjoy doing this podcast, but we also kind of... I don't know if it exists elsewhere. I don't know all podcasts, obviously, but we have the niche, maybe, of just... trying to be chill about it. Maybe I've gotten too excited over the last few minutes, but the idea is there.
Yeah, I think, I know we've said this a bunch, but like my idea has always been like something you can just fall asleep to, because like there's so many podcasts I love that have that same vibe. It's like, I could put this on, just relax, fall asleep, listening to whatever. But then they have those really loud ad breaks. Yeah, and it just kills it.
Those are pretty bad.
So I want to be like, we're never going to put big old ad breaks like that in the middle of the podcast when you're like trying to...
Yeah, if we do ever do ad stuff, it's going to be read by us in the same tone.
Yeah, I think if we ever did do ads, it would be in the beginning too. So people could skip it if they want to. Like my podcast catcher, I can tell it, start this podcast at 30 seconds, start it at 1 minute. So that would be a good compromise.
I don't think we're going to get advertisers if from the get-go you're like, we're going to make it so people can skip it easy.
I don't care. I really don't care. I want this podcast to be something that can be used that way. And if that means we're not going to be getting like Squarespace, wants you to put an ad at the 30-minute mark, it's like, I don't care. I'm just not going to do that. We'll do a Patreon or something and hope for that instead. But I just want to keep the podcast something chill that like you can put on and just know that we're not going to jump scare you with a big old loud noise. And hopefully the music hasn't been too loud either.
I've been trying to set the music where it's at the same like -12, -18 that the rest of the podcast is in at. So
I know the music I picked for last week is like, it was a song that's been stuck in my head forever. It's from Genshin. It's like one of the town themes and it's so good. I don't know if you listened to the full thing.
Yeah, actually that wasn't too bad. I know
song.
the song I'm using this week, and that's definitely going to be a sleepy song. So.
Yeah, but I know at like some points, sometimes I think of the songs like, oh, that song, I love it. But there is a little part in the middle where it's kind of energetic, but like it really ends on like a sleepy note too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, hopefully it's been good for everybody. I hope the small number of people that do listen, enjoy it in that way.
And yeah, if you can do us a help and leave a review somewhere, and if you do leave a review, please like send us via the GameRomp Blue Sky or Gmail or something, because as much as the podcast does get hosted on Apple Podcasts, neither of us has Apple products. So if there's a review on there, I literally can't access it. So
that's
please
let
us know.
We don't have Apple. Go figure.
Nope.
One of the small percentage of people in the West that don't use Apple.
But also, like, I can't really check the reviews on other sites either. So if you leave a review, please send it to us at the Gmail or something, and if you want it to be read out or something.
Yeah, I mean...
Otherwise, I can't tell.
It's fine if you don't want to either. I mean...
no obligation.
It's just one of those things where, like, you know how it goes with these things. Like, you can
it has to
review...
be word of mouth.
and be cool about it and, nice and helpful. But I'm not going to sit here and beg you to do that because I know I'm pretty bad at that kind of thing too. I will say every time a YouTuber says like, hey, hit that like button if you've enjoyed this, I actually a lot of the time will do that because like if I'm enjoying something, I just forget to do that. And it's like, yeah, man.
I guess that's why they say like the call to actions are
I'll hit that
actually
like button.
helpful.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole different kind of tangent. So we should probably call it a day.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, and we'll leave you with this nice sleepy song of Lavender Town, which was my favorite since the very beginning, way before the meme ever took off. I love Lavender Town.
I'm curious to see which version you end up picking.
Probably just the one from Leaf Green, honestly.
Okay. Because I know I have some 8-bit music that I would love to play, but then I hear it, it's like, actually, this is kind of jarring. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
So much good 8-bit music, too.
So we'll see you next week. Night, night.
Goodbye.